Welcome to Radio GAMeC, this Saturday Night Live in the 35th day of our live show. It's a special occasion to go back to talk about art with artists. That is maybe the core business of a museum and a cultural institution. But as you know, I am used to start with a quotation, a reading, and tonight I choose two different quote, and from Michael Chabon and from David Shields, a novelist and critic from the United States. The first is taken from The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, a fantastic novel by Michael Chabon. Those who make their living flirting with catastrophe develop a faculty of pessimistic imagination, of anticipating the worst, that is often all but indistinguishable from clairvoyance. Clairvoyance, the sound of this fantastic word is still resounding in my mind when I wrote it for the first time. And the second quote is from a strange critic, a controversial critic, David Shields. I love him very much, and I very much loved his book, How Literature Saved My Life. That is a motto that can be applied in some way also to my life. And he writes about what separates us is not what happens to us: birth, love, bad driver's license photos, death. What separates us is how each of us thinks about what happens to us. That's what I want to hear. And I think that using these two words, clairvoyance and ways of thinking about what happened to us, can be the red line that we could follow tonight in this show, in the Saturday night show. And we would like to explore with the artists this feeling of clairvoyance, the capability to see before what is going on, and anytime but now we need this clairvoyance, because we don't know where we are going, this pandemic situation and so on. And the way of thinking, the different way of thinking, is maybe the first message that art can involve and can help us to follow, because a different way of thinking is what we exactly need to be able to look forward. So I am going to invite guests for tonight, and I'm really happy and honored to have here with me Simone Fattal. Hello, Simone. Welcome to Radio GAMeC. Hello, Simone. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's my first time to do.
Director Lorenzo Giusti sends you his greetings. He's not here, but he wants to say thank you for coming tonight with us.
Thank you for asking me.
Simone, I want to start with you, with your story. It's full of moments of war and flights. Do you recognize any similarity with this present situation of pandemic and lockdowns? We use often war metaphors. Do you think it's right, or it's a completely different situation we are living now?
We are living in a complete different situation, because the virus, of course, he is making war on us, but it's not the war the way we lived it, for instance, during the several wars I was in. But there are many similarities in the way we live through this. First of all, an extreme anxiety about the unknown, as you just said. We don't know what it is. We don't know how long it's going to be. This is one thing that during the war can take over your thinking, and this is something you must fight first and foremost.
Yeah.
The only way to fight it, is to say, I am accepting what's going on. I'm going to live through it as I see it. And there is no way I can, if you start cheating with yourself, that it's nothing, that it's going to go away, that we can do something else. No, we have to live our reality through what's going on, this pandemic. And it can be a very big richness, because as we were living before, war and big stresses are moments where you can see things more clearly. Usually we lead our lives with a very, happy-go-lucky, we don't really care. But in moments of great difficulty, we have to be aware and to do only the very necessary and important things, because we can all die tomorrow. We don't know it usually. When we know it, but we don't live with it. And with this pandemic, we have to live with it.
This could be a lesson.
For instance, I've been doing...
Sorry, please.
No, go on.
I would like to ask you that art can do for the community, for our community tonight, art and culture, what they can do for us today?
They can do what they always have been doing. People need to have art, need to read books, read to think, hear music, even if they are confined at home and even if they are sick. Art is the most important thing that can help you live. Books are so important in one's life, sometimes a painting. And I think, for instance, I have been asked this year to do 2 projects in Italy, and they were going to do public art. And I think this is extremely important, because it's not in a museum, it's not in a small gallery, it's where people can go and look at something big. Museums, of course. So we need art more than ever. But we need art that is meaningful to our times. Like we have to be thinking about the earth, about revitalizing the earth, managing everything we can, not spending like we have been doing, or the richness of the earth. I think this is extremely important today. And I think artists can lead the way, can show it through their work. And people are sensitive about it, they will respond.
So in some way, you are optimistic about this change after the emergency, Simone?
You have to be optimistic. You have to be, being optimistic or pessimistic is not a vocabulary that you can apply to times of huge upheaval. Because it's a huge tragedy and we don't know. This unknown cannot make you optimistic. The optimism comes from being able to work, being able to do what you have to do every day, and being in communication with your people as much as possible. This is the real optimism. It's not like thinking, it will go away, life will be better. We don't know. But we have to try, every one of us, to make it better. So it's not optimism in that sense, but it's positive thinking, I think.
Let's talk about painting, Simone. We often say that painting is dead, but painting is still here, and each time we met a great paint, we feel the deepness of the work. How do you deal with painting today, Simone, in these times?
Yes, I have been going back and forth from painting for the last 20 years. I do painting, then I go to sculpture, then I go to painting. I don't think painting can ever be finished. It's impossible because it's always been with us since the cave men, and it will always be there because people, it's an instinct to paint. It's completely a very natural thing to do. Children do it all the time, and it will never be away. But I need to do more than painting in my practice. I just do. Sometimes I cannot paint, so I go to sculpture. You need many different ways to express yourself. But painting...
I have one. It's about the word future. Can we still imagine to use with consciousness the word future from today to the next years, or it will be difficult?
As I said before, I think we have to stress our work on this present moment, today. It's only by living every day that we will get to the future, because the future today is more unknown. I mean, we can see already big lines of what is going to be in the near future. For instance, we're going to have a huge economic recession. We are going to be poor. People are not going to be to have jobs as easily, to spend money as easily, and the artists will suffer, of course, because it's not the first priority of people who are earning their lives with difficulty. So, but we still will have to work. I mean, during the war in Lebanon, I never stopped to paint. On the contrary, I painted even more. And we used to go under the bombs and buy paintings, but they were very cheap because that's what people could afford. We bought a painting for $50 because it was bombs were falling on our heads. There was no electricity, no water. We thought it will never end, but things end. Everything passes. It will be better in a way if we watch, if we take care. We have to make a lot of adjustments and a lot of efforts.
You talk about your identity in some way. We are at the beginning of a moment in which we have to change our idea of human beings or of our identity. Do you think that we can be able to rethink an idea of being human on this planet in this time as artist, as a human being, only as human being?
The first idea has to be for every artist now, the environment. We have to take care of the environment, of the earth. The earth is suffering. It has no water enough. It has no trees enough. We have spoiled it. So we have to go back and do our duty to the earth. This is a priority for everybody. And if we do that, the future will be great. I'm sure.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you very much for coming here tonight. And I am very met you. And I hope to join you in a show in a live show, not an Instagram show. Thank you very much, and good luck for everything.
Goodbye. Bye.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you. So we listened to Simone Fattal, a great artist and related with poetry, related with many practices. And practices are also a particular point from the second guest for tonight that I am really, really proud to have here also him, because we look forward for him for a long time, and now I can invite to join us Thomas Hirschhorn, one of the greatest name of contemporary art, and one of the artists that represented in some way a political thinking about the present, an awareness. Thomas, welcome.
Hello. Hi. Buonasera.
Buonasera. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Thomas, for coming. Let's start from the idea of being an artist today. Did anything change in your practice during this strange quarantine? Did you change as an artist, also as a person in these days?
Yeah, first of all, I would say Fattal made a beautiful statement, and I just agree. We artists, we have just to do our work and to continue to do our work. That's our mission. So, of course, I had to adapt, not to change. I had to adapt. I'm working in my apartment, not in my studio. My assistants are not here, so I have to phone with them. But I really cannot complain. I am here in my apartment. I'm reading. I'm cutting. I'm gluing. I'm doing the Simone map because I wanted to do something which gives me some nurture. So I do my work here in my apartment. So of course it's different, but I don't have the impression I have to change my work. It's important, I think, as an artist, that you have a need. And of course we need to food, we need to drink, but first of all we need to do our work. And no virus, no state, no one can change it. So we have to continue to do our work. And I think Fattal, she spoke it out very beautifully.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, Thomas. Your work is often a political work. You have a strength. You have an urging inquiring against the real. What do you think about the next future? We have to be worried for less rights and more control. What are we going towards?
Yeah, but that is that we have less and less rights, that the inequality is growing, and that we are more and more under control than was before. So, of course, now this crisis, this virus, is accelerated. And, of course, now we have to be very watchful, I think, on what happened now. And, of course, first of all, what is my big worry and my big concern is this concept of social distancing, which, of course, I am not for as an artist, because my work, I want to get people in contact with art, with my work. I want people are not in this distance with it. I want people engaged with it, implicated with it. I want people discussing it. I want a dialogue or a confrontation through the artwork. And I am worried, of course, also in the art world, and this is my field, that of course the social distancing, distancing is again confirming or empowering what is already a tendency in art to make it exclusive, to keep people on distance, and in a way to have it under a kind of control. So therefore, I think we need to be very awake, and we need to be very truthful and to art, and also to absolutely to be committed to not betray art, even in this crisis. And also, you know, not going into the opportunities of the moment, or the circumstances, or the possibilities of the circumstances. So we have to be careful, I think.
We can be in some way dissident, Thomas. You think that we need a dissident artist in some way?
I mean, not the big words. We need resistance. We need to resist, because to me art is resistance. Art, because it's art, resists always political habits, social habits, cultural habits, aesthetical habits. Art is resisting. So I believe in it. I'm not afraid, but I'm worried and I'm concerned, and I must do my contribution that art still has this power of resistance. And I want, as an artist, do my little contribution.
You know that today in Italy it's the anniversary of the resistance. It's the 75th anniversary of liberation. So it makes sense. It makes sense. Thomas, let's get into the argument. I want to ask you, what do you think that museums can do for artists now?
Okay, for artists, first, what they should do, they should show us why we need a museum. And even in a crisis like this, I want the museum shows me why it's needed, why the museum is also needed, like food, like to drink something, even in this crisis. So that's what I hope the museum will show me, or will show us. I think this is important. And then, of course, I hope the museum will think again about the idea that, to me, the museum should open the public space, should go onto the public space. For example, the museum should be free. The museum should be open all the time. The museum should be inclusive completely and make the doors open, which will be very difficult now, I know, in the next months. But I think museums has also to resist and not to go back to kind of control or a kind of exclusivity or a kind of reduced way to be confronted with art. So there will be a big challenge also for a museum, I believe.
Yeah, that's the time. Thomas, you often work with the idea of ruins, contemporary ruins. I feel that we are living in an era of ruins in some way. And what can we take from ruins or from the idea of ruins, in your opinion?
Yeah, but okay. So let me first say a little bit. I don't think it's the same, because a ruin, to me, a ruin is an object which is fragment. It's a fragment also of something. It's a fragment. So the dynamic of a ruin is to go smaller from something which existed before. But the dynamic of a virus is not the same, because the virus, he or she, the virus wants to contaminate, wants to grow, wants to that's another, the dynamic, even the virus is not completely alive. I know it's on the edge to life, but the idea is to multiplicate and to contaminate. So this is another. But of course, the result is, or perhaps the situation is a shock situation, or we are shocked, or we are lost in a lost situation, like in a ruin, of course, after when something is in a ruin, or it's a disaster, of course. So, of course, and therefore perhaps it can be more or less the same situation where we are astonished. We don't know what to do in the first moments. We have to, and that also, I think that's also the challenging and the interesting moment. We have to ask ourselves for what we are living. What is the important thing? What is my position? What is my position? What is worth to live for, or what is worth to die for? Yes, that's the question. So everybody has to answer this question. That's perhaps what can come out of a disaster like this, or a challenge, a huge challenge like this. So what is worth to me? What is worth to me? For example, a very stupid thing. Is it worth to me to get the risk to be contaminated when I go to see my grandmother? Is this worth, or is it worth to say hello to her before she is dying in every case, or whatever? For example, questions like this, I think, are very important. And of course, I think it's not the state, it's person, and also not the state, who can take away from us this responsibility and this this big and huge challenge we have to confront.
And who can, according to you, Thomas, who can take this decision? The community?
No. We have, everybody. No, everybody has to ask herself or himself what is worth to live for.
Okay.
What I'm living for. What is worth? What sense my life should have? What give me? What is the sense I want to give to my life? So that's the challenge, and we have to answer individually. I think individually. Also, of course, then collectively to try to accord or to confront it collectively. That's what I think. But for me, it starts in an individual decision. And therefore, Leonardo, let me say, in this whole crisis, for example, you asked me before about the role of the museum now in this crisis and the institutions. And I think, for example, philosophers has also something to say, and they can help us with their words, and so I must say I listen to them sometimes, and it helped me to think about. It's not about I agree or not agree, but I cannot let it to the politicians. We cannot let it to the politicians. We need go forward. We need to ourselves to think about.
Sometimes I consider a philosopher like Timothy Moreton, for example, or Mark Fisher, and they set an idea of this future. What does it mean for you, Thomas, today, the word future?
Future, to me, of course, I think I must concentrate on what is really important to me, what is the core of what I want to do as an artist, but also as a citizen. And to me, I have a word that I thought about before, not for only this discussion. It's goodwill. Goodwill to the other, but also to the world.
Yeah.
To the world, goodwill. I want to have myself, I'm not sure can I do it, but I want to have more goodwill to the other. And I want also have more goodwill to the world I'm living in, And then that's my future, that I want. I'm asked to act with more goodwill. Not to change my work, but to act with more goodwill to the other and to the world. That was how I see my future, how I see the future.
Let's follow the goodwill. That's a good idea, Tom. Thank you very much.
In French, it's called bienveillance. I don't know, is it bienveillance in French?
Okay.
That's the word.
So we learn another word. Thomas, thank you. Lorenzo Giusti also wanted to say thank to you, and I hope to meet you in a show in Zurich or in Basel or in Milan or in Bergamo. I hope to meet you soon. Good luck for everything. Thank you.
Grazie Leonardo. Grazie.
Let me say that I think this was an extraordinary night. We had two enormous artists and two enormous person also, and you could see the energy, the commitment in art and in trying to be human. I think that Simone and Thomas have witnessed the way in which we can think about artists and art and their posture and their living and their way of being. We started from two words, clairvoyance and ways of thinking, and I think that we had some answers in this sense, because I consider this an incredibly good night. It's only my opinion, forgive me, but I want to share it with you. So we go to close our live session, and there is always a poem at the end Radio GAMeC moments. And so it was natural for me to choose a poem from Ethel Adnan, who lives with Simone Fattal. And it's taken from the manifestation of the voyage. Shadows move along ladders under the silence of ordinary things. There is another silence. It belongs neither to the leaves nor to the dead. With a crown of birds circling him, a child is running in an abandoned house. The stairway takes the measure of its own emptiness. I myself am the stairway that time has used in its funeral chorus. I myself am the stairway. I think that is this image taken from Ethel Adnan, maybe the image with which I leave you tonight, and I say thank you for being here. I saw my father online. Hi, Dad. I saw Antonio Valdi, and hi, Antonio. And I saw each one of you, and I thank each one of you for coming to our show, our Saturday night live show. It's difficult maybe to follow in another language, but I'm sure we had great time with our guest, and I think that this is what we are here for. This is what we are here for. I love you all. I say goodbye to Elsa, to Federica, and each one of you that join us tonight. And Radio GAMeC is back in Italian tomorrow morning at 11:30. We had a long Saturday waiting for the night event, and a short Sunday waiting for the morning event the next day. But tomorrow we'll be here again with two great figures in Italian museums, and we will go back to Italian language. It's easier for me and maybe for you. And thank you also to you, Graziano, for telling me nice things. I wait for you tomorrow, and I say good night to you. And thanks again to Simone Fattal and Thomas Hirschhorn, fantastic guest of this incredibly challenging night on Radio GAMeC. Thanks to you, and see you tomorrow. Good night and goodbye.